Speaking of things that you might have trouble believing in right now, the Texas Rangers. Although they did win their series against the Pirates, but the Pirates are terrible. So basically, we're looking at a string right now. We talked about a couple weeks ago. Yeah, the White Sox, the Royals, the Pirates. And then the next three series, Orioles, Mariners, and then the Orioles again. At the time, you were looking ahead of that stretch. None of those teams were above 500. And so my thought was, if you can win every series, you're going to go at least 12-6. And so, like, rock on. Right now, you're 5-4, which is tough because it is still a winning record. And if you were just 6-3, that would push you on pace to be 12-6. And I would be like, okay, well, you got there in a weird way with sweep, then you got swept, and then sweep again. But it's that sweep at the hands of Kansas City that's really hurting. Now you go into Baltimore, Seattle, and Baltimore again before you get to a tougher part of the schedule. And these games feel vitally important for a team that has just had to scrape and claw just to get back to 500. And they cannot get the hit when it matters. So last week, we asked the question, Chiofalo, are the Rangers' bats back? And there were a lot of positive signs. But the one thing that we highlighted that was not positive in any way, shape, or form was how they performed with runners in scoring position.
Yeah. I mean, you get a lot of 1 for 11s.
Yes. You know what? Yesterday, 2 for 12. So actually, technically better. That means that last at bat, we got it done.
Progress.
Yeah. So, and it started off so well because go back to it. You had walks to Semien, walk to Adolis. You got a bloop single from Josh Smith, which extended his career high hitting streak to 10 games. Hey, all right. We're ahead 1-0.
Really appreciate that guy.
And then you go to Josh Young. He has struggled mightily in his last 30 games. He gets a single and makes it 2-0. Another great situational hitting from the Joshes, I believe is the phrase. And you're like, hey, all right, I'm feeling pretty good about this. Then you end up finding out that you lose the game 8-3. So if you're like, I missed the rest of the game, what happened? Well,
they got away from us a little bit.
Yeah, you took a nap, whatever. You had some errands to run. By the way, running those errands, you can listen to these games right here on the Fan. So,
yeah,
no excuse.
Lock in, boys and girls. I do love taking a stroll through the grocery store with the earbuds in.
Ooh, I like that.
Accompanied by Eric Nadel, Matt Hicks, and Jared Sandler.
Yeah,
There's something special about it.
I like that. Does it steer you away from any foods when Eric talks about the boxy uniforms and how they made Willie Stargell look fat, and you're like, maybe don't get those Cocoa Puffs?
Exactly. The items out of the box you end up staying away from.
Okay, that's smart. All right, so the Rangers were 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position on Sunday. They left 6 people on base. Over the weekend against the Pirates, they won 2 or 3 games. Hey, that's great, right?
Yeah.
They went 4 for 29 with runners in scoring position. Going into yesterday's game, their OPS, which remember, OPS has kind of replaced batting average as the go-to stat for baseball. The Rangers' OPS with runners in scoring position was 649. That's the 3rd worst in baseball.
That adds up, man. Yeah, that's what this offense has been.
So, is there anything that you can pinpoint about why they've had problems? So, somebody just said they don't do all the little things. And one of the things they said with runners in scoring position. Yeah. But I know one of the arguments before was the Rangers don't do the little things to get people in scoring position. They've done a significantly better job at getting people in scoring position. When we talked with Bochy last week, we talked about that game the weekend before against the White Sox, or not the White Sox. They won it. And no, it was against the White Sox. I'm sorry. Doubting myself. Got to stay true to myself. They had 12 people left on base before they even got to the 9th inning. And Boch was like, it felt like we should have been winning that game by 10 runs. So they're getting more people in position, but they're not getting the big hit. Do you have a reason? Do you have a player? Do you have a whatever that you think is leading to this funk? Because we just talked about Josh Young has really been struggling the last 30 games. Obviously, Corey Seager's drawing walks, but not been the Corey Seager that perhaps we thought. They're getting people to second and third base, but much like we talked about at the beginning of the show, Jack Leiter, he's getting the work, getting you to 2 strikes. And then what?
And then the bottom falls out a little bit on them.
Same thing with the Rangers offense.
Yeah.
They're doing the work, getting you to second, getting you to third. And then Nothing.
It's really maddening. And I do feel like if there was a great answer for this, then they would have been able to sort of solve this.
You really hope they would have put that into practice, right?
Yeah. But I also find it interesting that Jared talks about how, and we've asked some of the guys in the G-Bag Nation on Tuesdays when we do the Rangers Players Show, when we get a hitter on the air, asking them like, hey, how does your approach change when you do have guys in scoring position? And they for the most part, they say like it really doesn't change at all. I'm just getting up there with the same mindset. And apparently that's sort of the way of the sport over the last decade plus, whatever it is, where these guys are just getting up there and it doesn't matter really what the situation is in terms of runners in scoring position. They're doing what they always do. And right now what the Rangers always do for the most part is not get the hit that they need. And so the runners in scoring position, I think, is a little bit less so lately because they have gotten the guys on base and then they can't complete the mission.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're just talking about a bad offense. So how do I expect a bad offense to just be good in this scenario? We can't score when we get to the red zone. Well, we don't really we don't push the ball down the field into the red zone that much either. We don't. Our offense isn't very good, so we don't score the touchdowns. But we're not very good everywhere else either.
Is this going to be another thing? And we talked about this with NBA players and like jumping teams. Is this another thing where you don't have to like it, but you need to accept that's the way baseball is now? Is like if you expect a different approach with two strikes or a different approach with runners in scoring position, like that part of the game has passed us by.
It's hard to really just accept it.
Yeah.
I think to some extent, I guess you just have to, but I still want to ask the questions. I still want to poke and prod as to why. Are we sure this is the best way? And everything's a bit cyclical, so perhaps it swings the other direction. But when your leader in ribbies on the team is like 75th in the entire sport, you got problems. That's where we're at right now. Adolis Garcia, leads the team in ribbies, and he's like 75th in all of Major League Baseball.
Yes. Okay, from the 214, recent hitting coach change. And I think this is one of the issues, and maybe this is a question for Chris Young today. Maybe it's more of a question for Boch on Wednesday. Is there a unified message going to the hitters? And that's what I want to know, because I feel like some of the coaches, and you hear Brett Boone sometimes talk about this every Wednesday with Sean and RJ, because they essentially got him this job.
That's right.
I firmly believe that. Is he talks about some things, and some of it is like gut instinct as a coach, but then there's the analytics, and sometimes those cooperate very well, but sometimes they don't. And are the hitters getting a unified message? And then my follow-up question to that would be, or do you think that's a problem for every team across the league? Like, I don't want to paint it as though it might just be unique for the Rangers. It's like, oh, sometimes coaches and analytics say different things. Like, that's probably a problem for every team.
For sure.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, and putting this on the coaching situation, that is, we're now like Ecker gone.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you can't really put it on Boone, and he seems to be the kind of guy that likes to go player to player. Everybody, like you said, a little bit different. Yeah. We're trying to, like, what works for this guy doesn't necessarily work for that guy. And that's sort of the nature of it. But right now, you just got a bunch of guys that are not consistently doing what they are paid to do.
And there will be an opportunity for a spark because, unfortunately, Jake Berger went on the injured list. He has a left oblique strain. And you could see it pretty much straight away after, I think it was a strikeout, not just a swing and a miss. You could pretty much see it straight away. Like, he was in pain. He was reaching towards his side. And now Berger has said he was hopeful that it was just like a cramp. They said, no, not a cramp, 10-day IL.
I know Tony Romo thought it was just a cramp.
Yeah, oh, man. Never forget that when Dak's foot was twisted backwards, Tony Romo looked at the monitor and said, hopefully it's just a cramp. That's a thing that happened.
It's an all-time moment.
We were all looking at the same image, and I was like, I got bad news for you, Tony. Probably not. I'll let you figure it out in the break, but probably not. So Berger said, my mind's already on that 11th day, and he's already focused on that. And you love that mindset. In the meantime, Ezekiel Duran probably going to get most of the reps at first base. We talked about Foscue jumping back up. Maybe Osuna sees a little bit more time here and there. But you do have a few options if you're in the camp of, I just need change for change's sake.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's not always the way to do it, but sometimes you agree. Like, sometimes you're like, I don't know. But we got to change it up because what we're doing right now is just the worst.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, there are no bad ideas in terms of what can you do to try to figure something out here.
It does. Like, I feel like we're not too far removed from me asking Boch a question about runners in scoring position and him asking me the question back and being like, what do you got? I'm open. Like, what kind of ideas have you guys come up with in the 105.3 The Fan Lab?
We do need to have we might need to have a team meeting, players only meeting.
Yes.
Where we try and come up with the right idea to get this offense rolling.
Yes. And Boch said this after the game. And you might be like, hold on, is that not from last week or last month or April? It was actually from yesterday, but it applies in all those situations. We just couldn't get that big hit. And I feel like we've heard that time and time and time again.
That'll be on the 2025 Texas Rangers tombstone.
We just couldn't get that. We just couldn't get that big hit.
That's it. That's what it'll be. That's the story of this season so far for these guys.
Man,
and unfortunately that takes the place of the great pitching. It's going to be couldn't get the big hit. Oh yeah, we pitched our tail off for the most part.
Yeah. Do you think we'll do that, or do you think we'll positive spin it and be like, Rangers season, start date, end date, obviously not the playoffs, heck of a pitching run.
Yeah.
And we'll just ignore the rest.
By the way, positive.